What's up, Facebook Live? Nice to see you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Cover up that vent. We are traveling on the road right now, but I decided to jump on and do a special Facebook Live with you all. We're going to have a couple fun guests join us in just a few moments, and we're going to be talking about the concept of embracing the new you as you evolve through different stages and kind of evolutions of your life. And so as they're popping on, I'd love to know, number one, where you're tuning in from. Number two, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for. Right over there in the comment section, feel free to jot that down. Isaac, hello, nice to see you. Ravi, what's up? Welcome. Welcome. And again, as you're tuning in, love to know, number one, where you're tuning in from. Number two, love to know three things you're grateful for. Asmith, what's up? Nice to see you. Let's see. Tracy from Long Island, New York. Welcome. Francis. All right. There we go. Let me see if I can find our guest. It looks like I got them. It should work A-OK. I'll roll this back. Bobby, what's up from Florida Keys? Kristen, hey from Richmond, Virginia. What's up, Gracia? Nice to see you. Welcome. Hey, there they are. What's up, party people?
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Doing great. We've got this like carefully positioned. We're on a chair on a laptop on our phone. So
don't worry, I've got the same thing going on over here. So we got lots of people joining us.
Yeah, we can do that.
Now, this will be fun. Lots of people. We got Gustavo, George, Stefan, grateful for God, music, and talent. Tracy from grateful for my mentors. Ellen Acosta, hey guys, welcome. So we got tons of people tuning in. Paul, what's up from London again? And as they're tuning in, I just asked them a quick question for the comments, which is number one, where they're tuning in from. Number two, what are three things they're grateful for, if they wouldn't mind putting them down there. Mark from Los Angeles, great for his health, family, and freedom. Ishmael from Riverhead, Long Island, thankful for opportunity and mentors and God. Very nice. So awesome. Lots of people are joining us, which is wonderful. And I was priming them before, well, you guys might have saw, but as you guys were tuning in, I was talking to them about that we're going to chit chat about kind of how to embrace each moment of life as you transition and kind of step into a new identity of who you are and a new experience of life. And so maybe to set the framework for people who might not know who you guys are, it seems like lots of people joining do, but for people who don't know who you are, I'd love to know maybe both of your individual stories of kind of that first stage of life, if we call it. And the first stage of life is when you're kind of a single person going into the world, trying to figure out what works and achieve and accomplish, everything you desire. And so if we were to start there, I'd love to hear real quick both of your stories of who were you before you guys met and what were you doing in the world and what were some things that helped you to really achieve and make the most of what you were up to.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll go first. All right. Thanks, Jairek, for having us, by the way.
Of course. I like your background.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Thanks. Yeah, we're at a really cool place. This is called the Center for Optimal Fun in Laguna Beach. So nice little virtual office for today. But so as singles, both Tony and I were very driven as individuals ourselves. So that's one of the reasons why we attracted so easily to one another. Mm-hmm. But for me, and really just creating my life and customizing my life up to the point before meeting him, I just, from a young age, I just always felt like there was something greater, I needed to do in the world, something valuable, like, I just wanted to give. And so I grew up in a really small town in Alabama. It's called Gunnersville, Alabama. If any of you know where that is, please comment. That'd be awesome. But yeah, it was a small town and it was a beautiful town. It was a great community there. And a lot of good people around me to influence me. And I was really, really grateful for that kind of upbringing. But I always kind of crushed on, New York City and wanting to move there and wanting to just make something of myself, right? I think a lot of your viewers, a lot of our community are those types of people that are they're just not happy existing, right? They don't want to follow the pattern of society. They don't want to be these mass produced robots, right? For lack of a better term. They want to customize their life. That's why they're here. That's why they follow you. And you know, they want some insight on that. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be different. So my values at that time really centered around doing something significant and just you know, becoming the best version of myself I could be, right? And then obviously that started to change a little bit when I met Tony, because then it was not just one but two people doing the same thing. But yeah, I moved from small town Alabama to the big bad New York City, and really just put myself out there. And I had to get over a few things, like I had to get over rejection. I can't say I got over fear, because fear to me is just a healthy part of my life. It's not something I've ever wanted to get rid of. Like you hear a lot of people say how to become fearless. You know, how do you get over your fears? I don't know how to answer that question because I find that the only fearless people in the world are either toddlers or psychopaths. I stole that from Elizabeth Gilbert from the book Big Magic, but it's true, right? Those are the only fearless people I've ever met. Everybody has fear, and it protects you from things. It keeps you, you know, it keeps you safe in a lot of ways. But it doesn't have discernment, right? So I didn't get over fear, but I learned how to dictate to fear. I learned how to make it a healthy part of my life and not control other parts of my life. So I went through different phases of becoming the person I was, and I really just decided that I was going to do two things. And that was, I was going to start to narrow my scope of where I allowed input to come into my life from. So I stopped listening to the masses because I didn't want to be a part of the masses. So I had to stop listening to them. And I started looking for people who'd actually produce real results in areas that I wanted to get better at. So that's the first thing I did. When I narrowed that scope to a very small circle of people, the results in my life started to grow exponentially from that point. And then the second thing I did is I created a filter through which I started to make decisions. If the decision I was going to make didn't align with my values or my goals, I wasn't going to do it. Nice. Right? So I started to think really intentionally and carefully about everything I was doing up until that point. And that's what got me to New York City, and that's what got me to overcome different barriers along the way. And then around that part of my life is when I met Tony. So we'll stop there. And I'll let him chime in.
Well, quick question.
Yeah.
You said something that was really interesting and caught my attention, which was you wanted to do something that was significant. And as a single woman from Alabama, what would be considered significant?
Good question.
Good question.
I wanted to do something that would outlast me. So I wanted it to be something that was bigger and greater than myself. I wanted it to be in the realm of contribution. You know, for a long time, I thought I wanted to be famous. I thought I wanted to be a professional dancer on Broadway, and everything was kind of like me. And then I went through this major changing point where I lost my dad in 2008. And that was the event that made me who I am today. Because it wrecked me emotionally. It was devastating. It was financially tough for my family. But it got me to think a lot. And up until that point, I was really performance driven. I wanted to impress people. I wanted to walk into a room, be the best performer in the room, look good, smell good, talk good, and just impress you. And that's the type of community I had built around me at that point, was people that I could just impress. I didn't go super deep into relationships because of it. But then when I lost Dad, I realized that when we were at his visitation and funeral, people weren't getting up there to read his resume. They weren't saying, oh, we're so grateful for Frank T. Lawrence, who wrote this book and did this thing and contributed to that project. And he did a lot of really good stuff like that. But that's not what mattered at that final ending chapter. What mattered is the way my dad made them feel, the times where he visited them in the hospital, the way he influenced them, the words he spoke, the things. So that's when I realized what mattered. And that's when I made that huge shift personally to do something significant. So I realized it couldn't be performance driven. It couldn't be about impressing people. It had to be about influencing people, contributing, giving back. That's how I was going to do something that I, at that point, felt would truly matter and would give me tremendous purpose in life. So I really started to think about building a purpose-driven life at that point, rather than a performance-driven life. So
I like that.
I love it. I love it. And at that moment, so I'm imagining a path that's happening from Alabama to New York City on that dance route, doing these things right before Dad's going, and then Dad happens, and in that path and in that journey, Tony, where were you? What was your path and journey looking like simultaneously?
it's a good one.
It's so funny. You and I, we were talking about this yesterday, kind of the new generation that's coming up, the kids 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, how, when they were surveyed that the thing that they want most out of life is to be normal. And, for me, when I hear that, that's kind of sad, because I don't think anyone just goes, man, I'm so happy because I'm normal. I'm so happy. I feel so fulfilled. I've never heard anybody at the end of their life or, whatever stage they are in their life go, man, I am just so happy because I just lived the most normal, average life. And so when I was growing up, my parents went through, my dad and mom had built some nice businesses, kind of small S-type businesses, furniture stores and whatnot, and, had a decent income. But then they lost that all. So that was the best thing that ever happened to me as a kid, because I saw them not only go through struggle, but then not quit, not throw in the towel. And it gave me strength. It gave me an example of what to do when you hit struggle in your life, not to give up. And then, from that happened when I was about 10, 11 years old. And, I got a job at 12 years old. I was a caddy at a country club, and then I worked at a ski shop and patio furniture place for years and years and years. And I just started working, and I gained the value of a dollar bill, and I saw my parents have this tremendous work ethic, and sacrifice time with the family to give the family a better life. And so that just kind of started to lay the foundation in terms of work ethic. And then as I got older, I made a lot of bad decisions. It's amazing, at 18, 19, 20, I thought I knew everything. And anyone that would guide me, I would say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. My dad doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever. And then when I hit about age 22, 23, I said, wow, they've learned so much in the last few years. Their advice is so much better. And obviously I'm kidding about that. It's not that their advice changed, it's just that I changed, and I started to actually listen to people who had created the results that I wanted in my life. And I started to be open to it. I was very fixed-minded for a lot of years in my life, where it was just like, this is the way to do it. But if you look at what my life was producing in terms of results, in terms of, the two areas of life that we really focus in on is relationships and finances. So the financial part of my life was a total mess. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. I was making just stupid short-term decisions, just spending money that I didn't have, charging on credit cards, whatever, which then was just like a whole snowball effect of just creating more problems in my life. My car got repossessed. It was just a mess. And then the relationships in my life, I basically thought if somebody didn't, treat me the way that I wanted to be treated, and they didn't do things the way that I saw fit, that they were stupid, and that they didn't know what they were talking about, and that they were ridiculous. And when you have that mentality with everybody, it's amazing how many people don't want to be friends with you. It's amazing how many people just don't want to be around you because they're
It seems to work that way.
Yeah. So I'm going, man, I have no money and I have no friends. Maybe the problem is not the world. Maybe the problem is me. And that was a big realization for me. And I started to obviously kind of go on a path to kind of seek different knowledge and information. I really just opened myself up to listening to people who really, like Frances was saying, we started to really just allow ourselves to be open to people that had created the results that we wanted in our life, which if you think about 90% of our decisions come down to most of the decisions that we make on a daily basis come down to two topics: relationships, who we decide to spend our time with, and finances. We have to go to work. We have to build a business. We have to do something. So we're chasing money, until we learn how to get money to chase us. But most of our decision-making process is around those two topics. So I stopped listening to people who are not creating results in those two categories of life, and I started listening to people who had great results in those two categories of life. And when I saw the difference, it was unbelievable. How not only the results that they created, but just how they thought. And it was totally the opposite of how I thought at that time. And I literally look back at myself, I go, holy smokes, man, like it's so obvious as to why I was so screwed up looking back on it. Hindsight is always 20/20, but when you're in the middle of it and you only have one perspective, or you only have perspective of people that are kind of at your level, and that's one of the biggest problems is people just, they hang out with people that they feel comfortable with, as opposed to hanging around people that stretch them. Me and your wife were talking about this yesterday. It's like, man, you hang around people that are quote unquote just further along down the road than you, and it stretches you, it pushes you, it drives you. You hear what books they're reading, you hear what they're doing in their life, you hear how they're traveling, you hear what they're doing with their kids, and it stretches you. So one of the pieces of advice we always give people is like, look, if your friends aren't stretching you to grow in a positive direction, you kind of have to look at the association, who you're associating with, and ask yourself, like, okay, well, it's not that those people are bad, they're not bad at all, but are you growing in this relationship? Most people hang out with people because they go, oh, well, it's my drinking buddy, or it's my, my softball buddy, or it's my this buddy, or it's that buddy. And that's great. Those relationships are fun. But how are those relationships stretching you and moving you in a positive direction for your future, for your family? So,
absolutely. Now, real quick, for everyone watching, if you're finding this conversation useful, and it's about to get even better moment by moment here, because we're about to transition from, as these two amazing individuals were single, and you can hear the mindset of what they were doing, how they were going about it, trying to perform, trying to figure out how to be the best, trying to make that money, trying to grow, trying to have great relationships. You hear the thought process, and what's going to happen is you'll start to hear what changed as they became a couple. So they meet each other, they start hanging out with each other, and then literally, like, what happens? Because, you become a wife, you become a husband, and all of a sudden, what I've seen is the way things were, some of it can stay the same, and then there's new things that happen that you're like, wait a minute, what got me here won't get me there. Like how I performed as a single individual human by blocking the world out, being zero focused, letting nothing distract me, won't work if I want to have a actual relationship. Because if you ignore your partner, block them out, single focus on what you want, and ignore them, that won't last very long. But before we get to this, what I'd ask you, if you're watching this and you find it useful and you think someone could benefit, click the share button real quick, so we can invite them, or tag them in the comments so they come over here and check this out, and they can continue to listen in on this. And thank you for all of you who are commenting still and hitting all those little floating hearts and likes over there. I appreciate you. So let's jump back into the story. So two simultaneous paths, if you guys watching can kind of see how this is happening. And then all of a sudden, at what point did these two collide? Where did you all meet?
Where did we meet?
Oh, we met on Match.com.
Literally.
Frances was stalking me on Match.com, so I finally decided to go out on a date with her.
I was not stalking.
She wasn't stalking.
Well, the picture you had from Thunder Down Under as your profile definitely caught everyone's attention at that point. So,
yeah.
So where did these two stories cross paths?
Right. So we were both looking for the same things. We both had a vision for our life that was very similar. I think that's so important when you're looking for a partner, for all the single ladies out there and single men. I think it's so important to look, actually, I know it's important to look for someone who wants to craft a very similar vision for their life as you. Obviously, they weren't identical, but our priorities were the same and the vision was the same, right? So then we could get creative in figuring out what pieces matter the most to each of us and how we can make those fit into alignment with a new vision, right? So we did meet on Match.com. wasn't really looking for anything serious. I honestly was just looking for a social circle outside of the entertainment industry. I wasn't really looking for somebody to date necessarily, but kind of just like a friend that I could maybe watch football with and just like veg outside of talking about dance and performance in that world. And so Tony's profile was very bare. Said a couple of things on it, like surfing and Dave Matthews Band, and I was like, click, that's somebody that I can, just have that type of common ground with.
Well, I messaged you first.
You did message me, but that's the reason why I decided to write back.
Yeah, it was an inspiring message. It said, I like your profile. If you're interested, write me back.
That was
Strong.
it.
Strong start.
That was my line. That was my pickup line.
But the surprise behind the whole thing was when we actually got on the phone with each other and we started talking. It was very difficult to keep me on the phone. I have to, I'm very like task oriented. Everything I do in my day has to be productive, right? So I have a very difficult time sometimes being relational. I can be much more just, building. And sometimes I have to remember to sit back, relax, and just be, right? And at that time, I really had no self-awareness behind any of this. So to keep me on the phone, it was quite the feat. And we ended up talking several nights in a row for just hours on end before we even met. And what we were discovering is that we both had the same value system. We both had similar goals. Tony was a huge dreamer. He actually stretched me to dream beyond the capacity that I was dreaming at the time. He challenged me in ways. And so that's where we started to realize pretty quickly that we could join forces, not only, in marriage, but quite possibly in purpose as well. Yeah. And that's what we both wanted. We wanted companionship. And we also wanted a partner, a partner in ultimate purpose. We wanted to build things together, create things together, set goals. If we wanted to, we wanted to set the goals and smash them together or fail together. But either way, we wanted to do it together. Because when if I think about going into business, the first person I ever want to go into business with is him, my partner. So that's how it all kind of collided. And that was really the filter through which I think we both were assessing one another, right, as we were dating to figure out if this whole thing was going to work out. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I was young. I was, single. I was confused. I didn't know what a good relationship looked like. I had a kid very, very young. So, I was really questioning, like, man, dude, like, am I going to kind of figure this part of my life out? And then when we got together, things just flowed, just way better. Now, when we got together, we wanted to go in the same direction in life. We were very like-minded. We were very growth-minded in all these areas of life, but I still didn't know how to be in a relationship. And
there's definitely friction.
Sure. Oh yeah. There was huge friction, and I think anytime you do a live video like this or just any sort of video, like we're just always very real and open and honest, because I think a lot of people always see a finished product, or not a finished product, but a product that's been in production for quite some time. And they go, oh man, how do I get to that point? And I always like to kind of explain to people what it looked like when we first went into production. And, Frances there were periods of time when she was gone. She was done because I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to be in a relationship. And I think one of the things that really helped us in our relationship and then kind of coming together even more was both of us becoming self-aware of our personality, how we operated, understanding each other, how to communicate, how one person, receives information as opposed to the other. And that was huge. That saved our marriage without a doubt. We're huge components believers in personality tests, because it allowed me to understand my personality and then understand why I was thinking the way that I was thinking. And then when we would have a disagreement or an argument or anything like that, how to properly just hash through that. And this went from, my life today, when I got started in, getting mentored, finding people that could coach me, I argued with everybody. I would argue with you about the sky being blue, even though I know that the sky is blue, but I just want to argue with you about it. You know, like, prove to me why the sky is blue. Like, it just didn't make sense. And then, so as I came through that, and now looking at our relationship when we first got together, we argued a lot. Now we hardly ever argue. And then if there is a wrinkle that we have to iron out, it's a discussion. And it's just so much nicer. And for me, a lot of that has to do with just being confident and comfortable with who I am as a human being, and not being insecure about what she's thinking or what she's doing or what. It just made all the difference in the world. And it allowed really my heart to open up and really be able to just love somebody the way that they're supposed to be loved, as opposed to always worrying about, you know, my happiness isn't attached to how she quote unquote views me. Like, and see, I was seeking, I needed her to be happy with me for me to be happy, you know, and that's a recipe for a disaster. And then as I became self-aware of that, it really changed my whole life. But we do focus on each other. Like, my primary focus is, you know, our God and her. And my goal is to make her happy and make sure her needs and wants and desires are met. And then she really does the same thing with me. And because of that, you know, we just have God in the center of our relationship. And we absolutely, it's been a great recipe for developing an amazing, amazing friendship. And we're very much similar to you and Amanda, where this is my best friend. I don't want to spend time away from her. You know, I want to do everything with her. You know, whether it be working out, whether it be, you know, watching a movie, whether it be reading, like, we just love being together, you know, so we're together pretty much 24/7, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
I love it. And so you're hearing different pieces of your mindset shifting, needing to learn how to communicate differently, needing to learn how to be open, needing to learn how to putting her first, putting God first over just what you wanted or how you wanted to do it. And as these things shift, what was that like? Was that easy? Was that something that's like, oh, this is no easy peasy? Like, oh, no. This I thought exactly how it's going to be. Or were there times where you kind of stared in the mirror and you're like, really? And I have a friend who does this to me. She laughed, and it was right after I got married. I went over and I was traveling, so she let me stay in her guest room. And I was there, and she was like, you know, now that you're married, can I ask you the truth? Is it like a big hoax? Like, do you get married and then they're like, surprise, you're totally screwed now? But like, is that what happens? Does it suck? Like, is it just is it really as good as they say, or is it like totally horrible and it's a big trick that no one tells you until you're stuck, and then they totally break the bad news? And I looked at her, I'm like, where did you come up with that? I'm like, no one's jumped out of a bush yet and been like, surprise. And I said, honestly, it's one of the greatest things that I've ever experienced in my life. It transformed who I was as a man. And there's a thought process I learned I had to use, which was, it ain't easy and it's not going to be easy. But to take joy in that and to be like, I'm excited it's not easy. I'm excited that there's going to be things that are bumps in the road and hard conversations and uncomfortable things to bring up. And I'm going to have to redefine who I am as a human being and how I choose to show up in order to better communicate and relate with this human. And to an extent, she may have her own transformation as well. And in that transformation, it's really wild as you become two new versions of yourself. And it's kind of the topic of today's discussion, the concept of you're a single individual who's, you know, excuse the language for anyone out there, but you're a badass person, kicking ass at life, driving, striving, pushing, grinding your way to goals, making things happen, becoming successful, being a pro, taking over the entertainment world, you know, building a business. You're doing all this stuff as an individual. And all of a sudden you guys cross into each other's lives and it's like, whoa, okay. And this, you know, the polished process you guys were talking about right now, you've learned how to communicate effectively with each other. You've learned how to understand and put each other first. You've learned how to get through tricky times or road bumps or just really shitty moments together. and all those things are just truth and honest of what life throws at you. But I'd be curious in your own perspective, and maybe about each other. It's always interesting to hear someone else's opinion, especially someone who's very close to you. Frances, what would you say that changed most about Tony throughout the transformation of being a single man to becoming your husband? And Tony, what would you say, transformed most about Frances from becoming a single woman to becoming your wife?
Yeah, that's so good, and this is so needed, to be talked about. So thank you. The first thing I will say about the whole transformation process is that it is the sexiest thing you can do as a man. Seriously, I tell everybody that because I think men have this ego or this exterior that it's, they don't want to face confrontation within themselves, right? I mean, I don't think women do either, but for men especially, they look at it as a weakness, right? We're very...
I'll throw something in real quick. There was a research study done where an email went out and they asked a group of women, what's an area of your life that you're not good at or something that you need improvement on? And women responded to this email and would list 5-10 things that quickly. I could do better at this. I could do better at that. This is where I'm weak. This is where they're self-aware and they're able to call it out very quickly. They sent the same email to a group of men and they said, where are you weak and where could you improve? And here's what the responses sound like. Why would I talk about that? I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Could you please rephrase that?
That's
and
amazing.
The next person listed the 5 things he's great at. And so when you talk about us guys don't like to look at the stuff we're not good at, there's truth in this. As men, we tend to focus on like the 4 things we're great at, or if we have 5 or whatever, these things we're good at, everything else, why would I even think of that? That's a waste of my time. I should just focus on what I'm great at and move on. So what you're saying here is really important because, the ability when you get into a relationship, you hear men state stuff like, she tried to change me. Did she try to change you, or did she shine some light on an area of your life that you've been ignoring for 25 years? Yeah. Like you want to think this one through. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to throw that out there because there's science behind this, and it's really entertaining, and it's interesting and entertaining. When you read the responses side by side.
Yeah, that's so good, and that's why I love the fact that Tony is so open and talking about his journey, because we need to hear more examples of men doing it, right? So that and being open about it, so that we can turn it into more of a cool thing, right? Rather than like this weird, there was something wrong with me that had to get fixed, right? There's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth in all of us. I mean, the day that you stop growing, you might as well be dead, right? So for us, we look as growth and pain as good things, right? There's no growth without pain. And so you have to be open to embracing that, knowing and trusting that there's going to be good on the other side. So watching Tony do this, because when we came into the partnership together, he just had history, right? Like we all have history. I had my own history, but his history had to do largely with relationships and struggling in that area, like you mentioned before. And so he just had to break down some walls and barriers and press through things. And there was this really incredible man on the inside that, yes, was there probably 80-90% of the time, but in times of conflict could turn just unlike him, right? So it just needed to be peeled back, uncovered, and then completely unleashed into this beast of an amazing man that he is today. And it was probably like the sexiest thing I've ever witnessed. So we're very open about mentorship and having counsel in your life. You throw out the word counselor and people think it's a negative term. We love it. We're still constantly seeking mentorship. We have a close roundtable of counselors that weigh in on our life and constantly provide constructive criticism so that we can continue to just be better and better versions of ourselves, because we have an organization that we influence, and we don't want to screw it up. We don't want to screw people up. We're not that important to have to protect our own feelings by not hearing those difficult kinds of things. So Tony's transformation was a little bit, I don't want to use the word bloody, but it was a little more intense maybe than mine was. But I was there, pretty bloody. But I was there the whole time to witness it and to work on my key components to make this relationship better. And he's right. There were days when I was leaving during those, you know, conflicting moments, blowouts where we just, you know, he was speaking Mandarin and I was speaking, you know, English, and we weren't, you know, it's kind of like, Jairek, I so appreciated what you and Amanda shared with us yesterday. You talked to us about playing different games and different rules, right? Coming into the relationship and he's playing checkers and he's got his own set of rules and I'm playing Monopoly and I've got my own set of rules. And in the beginning, when we're dating, you kind of just like ignore certain things, or, you know, don't discuss things that could potentially be a big deal later, right? So you're just kind of looking over it because of the hormones and the lovey-dovey stuff. And
you're drugged in the beginning. All
right.
the oxytocin's hijacking your brain, and you're literally drugged and not paying attention to all the obvious signs. Yes. Or you're seeing them and going, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, it'll change. Oh, it'll get better. Oh, they'll change. And you ignore all the signs. It's like driving down a road. It's like, do not enter, wrong way, U-turn, dead end. And you're like, I'm sure it'll be fine. And you're just cruising straight down the highway.
Yeah, and that's when people say, when we get married, it'll get better. When we have a baby, it'll get better. And it's like, no. Like, figure it out now. Talk about those things now. And if you need help, if you need it, I just recommend it. Get a counselor, get a third party, get a mentor, somebody that can, you know, has the credibility to help mediate those kinds of conversations. And, you know, there would be times where we'd be in conflict. And like you said, he's playing checkers. He's like, you're red, I'm black. You move over here. We do these things and that's it. And I'm like, but wait a minute. Amanda said this yesterday. Are you the thimble or are you the top hat? Like, are we supposed to roll a dice here? Who goes first? Right. So just like, whoa. And that only grew as we ignored it. We would cope and hope. Right. So we would have a fight, and then we'd get over it, we'd make up, and then we'd just kind of hope things would get better, and it became cyclical. And then it was just like, all right, when are we going to break this pattern? How are we going to break this pattern? And that's when we decided we really need a higher level of mentorship to speak into our life and help us break through this. Because we know we're great individually, we know we're great together. We just have to hack this. And there were days when it was just like, I was out of there, you know, because that was my mechanism. His mechanism was like, there's a situation, let's attack it, right? And my mechanism is like, okay, there's conflict, let me leave. Let me not deal with this. So those two things didn't work very well together. And but so then we went through this self-awareness process with our counselor. And
there's an important aspect of why that happens, and it's biological. Because what happens is when a guy sees a situation that he needs to attack, his testosterone levels go through the damn roof. And he's like, I'll attack it, I'll fix it, I'll kill this situation. And when that becomes too much, a woman's brain gets hijacked and she goes, oh shit, there's a predator in the room. I need to run and get the hell away from it because it could possibly kill me. And so there's a safety mechanism that happens. And I hear this from a lot of women. They're like, yeah, when that person gets too much of this crazy energy, I'm like, I'm out. Because it's the part of your brain that's fight or flight that goes, oh shit, I ain't gonna fight this beast, I'm out. And what happens, it's biological to save your life. And so men don't realize this, and men go, why aren't you fighting the problem with me? And they go chasing you, which now the predator is chasing you. And it's like, not only is this thing dangerous, this thing is now dangerous and running after me. And now it really kicks in. You're like, it's coming after me. And you go, and the freaking predator's like, don't you walk away. We need to solve this. And you're like, oh my God. And people wonder why this happens. And you know, in this moment, I'd love to let you guys continue, but there's biological pieces going on here that we don't realize, and we both get hijacked. And you know, the guy gets hijacked of, so we need to fix it and kill it so it's over. And all of a sudden, the female brain's like, holy crap, it's gonna kill me, and goes running. And you know, you see the thing running down the street and think, what the heck happened in their house?
Yeah, that's exactly what we were experiencing. Actually, it's pretty cool. Our counselor just logged in. Hey, Bill. So he's the one that helped guide us through this. But so what he actually suggested to us when this went down, you know, is he said, okay, like, you know, let it dissipate. If you can't talk about the conflict at the time of conflict, just throw a red flag. Say, we're done. We're not talking about this anymore. We will revisit this when we can both be calm. And he said, establish a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, where you sit down and neither party are allowed to escalate. And if an escalation happens, you throw the red flag, you walk away, and you come back, right? And so that was just like a simple tool that really helped us, because it helped us, start to be able to communicate on that level, which was just obviously much more constructive and effective than what we were doing.
So yeah. I love this. And I love that, throwing a red flag. I call it waving the white flag, being like, hey, I'm going to throw up, I'm going to give in right now. I'm going to give up, but we need, I'm letting you know we're done. And for people watching this, I'll give you two things that are really useful that work immediately. One is a little bit of self-awareness, which is asking yourself, am I at my best? Am I an average version of myself? Or am I the worst version of myself? And what would qualify that would cause you to move up or down the scale? Sleep, movement, exercise. If you haven't slept, if you got 2 hours of sleep last night, you're exhausted, I guarantee the best you can be is an average version of yourself that day. The best you can be is average. If you haven't eaten, you become something we joke around and call hangry, meaning you're not the best version of yourself. You cannot be the best version of yourself. Your blood sugar is going all over the place. You're not going to react as a sane human in this version. You're going to have the other version of yourself. And same thing, if you haven't moved, if your endorphins aren't kicking in, if you haven't exercised, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. So an easy thing to do, if you feel that kind of feeling coming up, just go, wait a minute, shit, have I eaten? Have I slept? Have I worked out? If the answer is no to any of these, go, okay, wait, red flag, white flag, I'm in trouble. I'm not the best version of myself right now. Please help. Just be aware. Tread lightly, be aware. I'm not and when you practice that ability, it becomes a fair conversation. Because, and I always use the example, we use a little device called Spire that tracks the breath pattern. And I said, wait a minute. If you were going to visit your husband or wife, and as you were pulling up to the building, you pulled up an app and it says they've been stressed for the last 45 minutes. Would you enter differently into the building and conversation? Yeah, you would tread lightly. You'd be like, okay, where are they? Hey, honey, how you doing? You would approach them differently versus walking in the room and be like, hey, how you doing, champ? And they're like, and you're like, whoa. And you just didn't know what you were walking into. And it's never that bad. I'm overly dramatic right here. But the concept of not knowing what you're walking into, if you can practice asking, hey, where are you at right now? Are you, A, B, or C, best, worst, or average? Where are you at? Just so I know, and where am I at? That helps. The other thing, there's something you can do. So if you catch yourself when you're both kind of out of it, having the DMR, that zone or DMZ you can go to, where it's hey, we're going to sit here and this is our safe space. The other thing you want is something that can help you kind of get back to sanity as fast as possible. So there's something we've always done with people, couples, individuals, anybody. If you're hijacked or you're not your best, it's just 3 breaths. And all it is, we can do it together real quick. You just breathe in through your nose really slow. At the very top, a little bit more in your mouth. And then hold it and squeeze. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let it out and drop. And what you want to do is open your mouth, let all the air out in one piece, and drop your shoulders and drop your head at once. So So ready to do it again? A little more. Squeeze. All the way out. One more time into your nose. A little more. Squeeze. All the way out. And what happens, as silly as this is, it resets your vagus nerve, which resets your entire nervous system, and it helps you get back to at least clarity. And at that moment, you can go, oh, shoot, am I best, worst, or average right now, and where do I go from there? So in that kind of zone, once you sit down and go, okay, here's the safe space, now you can ask, where are we in those 3 places? And then whatever it is, let's get back to clarity by doing those 3 breaths, and all of a sudden, bam, you're back in a place that you can actually communicate.
Right.
So back to the story. Sorry. just a side tip that might help anyone who lands up in that position.
Absolutely, yeah. And the other component we threw in is just our spiritual component. Whether, you know, for us it's with God, and other people, they have, you know, their practices, meditation, things like that, and that really just help us stay centered and realize, like, hey, our problems really are not like that gigantic as we think they are, right? Sometimes you get so self-absorbed and caught up in you and us and this world we've built, and we'll read things that, you know, that will remind us that we're not the only ones in the world, or we'll watch a video or do something and just stay spiritually grounded and connected to help us realize, okay, we've got things that we need to overcome. We've got obstacles and barriers we need to break through. It's great. We're happy about it because we truly feel that the only reason we have these is because we're meant to do something great. We find the greater your purpose, the greater the dragons, the greater the obstacles, right? So we're happy about them. We embrace them. We know we have to get through this somehow. There's two of us. Two are better than one. We've got this. And it's just a stepping stone to get us to that next point, right? For every seed of greatness, there's an equal, you know, adversity coming your way. So that's the way we've just chosen to look at it. You know, we find that everything that you have the choice to view everything in your life as positive or negative. And so we just always try to default to positive and pull the good out of it.
Yep.
And then we've learned how to communicate. We've learned how to, you know, enter into that DMZ and say, okay, you know, everything we want to do, everything we're discussing here, how does it fall through our filter? How does it go through our values and our goals? And sometimes we don't always do what I want to do, and sometimes we don't always do what he wants to do. But we just keep that filter as our litmus test, and it keeps us coming back to the same page, to the same direction, and just keeps us moving forward, so that we, you know, we can stay a good team.
Yeah.
You know, and good partnership in marriage and in business. So
yeah. No, I mean, we've gone through so many ups and downs, and just our perspective. I mean, Frances really had a good foundation. Like I was pretty negative. And I had grown a lot. Even, you know, I had grown a lot from like 22 to 28, 29, 30. I met her when I was 30. But realizing in our relationship, I realized, man, like I was letting little things just steal my joy. And when I really, looking back on it, I mean, when I first started to go seek help and you know, go through different, I don't like the term counselor, because a lot of people kind of run from that. They're like, I don't need a counselor. So we always kind of refer to it as higher level leadership development. You know, as I started to just, you know, sit with this one in particular gentleman, Bill Hoffman, and he would walk me through things, and my perspective just started to change. Really, my heart started to change. He started to basically identify, you know, the root cause as to why my thinking was this way, you know, and a lot of it had to do with, you know, my inherent personality traits. You know, and then understanding, okay, my upbringing, you know, my environment, as to why, you know, things that happened to me as I got older, as to what made me react that way. And then, you know, that self-awareness gave me tremendous confidence. You know, him teaching me that, look, it's okay that you think this way, but this is why you think this way, and this is how it's hurting your life, and this is what it's producing, and this is the way that you need to change and grow and develop if you want to have a prosperous relationship. So it literally, like, I had a blindfold on for so many years of my life, and then all of a sudden he started to kind of just, you know, peel off layers. Like I had multiple blindfolds on, and kind of like every blindfold he would take off, I would start to see a little clearer, a little clearer, a little clearer. And, you know, looking back at it now, this isn't something that ever stops. I think a lot of people think that too. They think that, you know, well, when I get to this point, well, then I'll be okay. And what they do is another thing that Bill Hoffman says, we were going to him from crisis to crisis. So we'd have a crisis, and we go, oh, Bill, I gotta talk to you, Bill. It's so important. You know, Frances is leaving me again. You know, and then we talk, and like things would on the surface level get better, and then we'd stop talking. You know, and then another crisis would happen. Oh gosh, Bill, save us, you know? and a lot of it just had to do with maturity and realizing that you can't, that doesn't pull out the root. All we were doing was kind of like mowing the lawn. It's like, okay, a weed pops up, let's cut it out, you know, but we weren't getting to the root of that weed and actually pulling it out and just totally killing it and making sure that we understand how to not have that weed pop back up and, you know, just enter back into our life. And Frances was great, like, through that process. She really was, like, because she was, and I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I was the only one growing through it. She was growing too, but she was really good at not making me feel bad for all like the things that I had done or experienced or my thought process. Like there was times when I would drive home and I was just like a crying mess. And she would like smile. She'd be like, I'd be like, why are you smiling? She's like, because you're growing. It's great. I love you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, you know, but I was really just getting in touch. You know, I know it sounds bad, you know, with myself, but I was really just getting to understand myself. And I always thought that a good husband, you know, a good partner was a weak man. You know, I kind of like looked at these nice husbands that were just like, I looked at it like, oh, well, this guy's just kind of like weak and passive and this. So like, I didn't want to become that. And Bill really walked me through that and saying, no, being a great husband it's not about being weak. You could still be strong and convicted and bold and loving and passionate and all these things. He goes, but at the same time, be loving and sincere and, you know, be there for your significant other and understanding that it's not one, you don't have to be one way without the other. You could be both. And, you know, so it's been a really amazing journey. And I think another thing, just to add on to that, is understanding that you have to enjoy the journey. If you want to have this process go quicker, enjoy the journey, which I know it's really tough when you're in the thick of it. Like, me saying that is a lot easier, but this is something that we've really, me especially, I think, Frances was really good. Like, she really enjoyed the journey. She really, like, she has a really good perspective, and I really lean into that at a lot of different points in my life. But I've really learned to enjoy the journey and appreciate the little things, you know, whatever it may be. You know, so much of the time, you and I were talking about this yesterday, where it would be like, I'd be on a trip or I'd be on vacation. I'd be like, I just got to get home. And then I'd be home. I'd be like, oh, I got to go on a trip. And I was always looking at like the next thing as opposed to being present in the moment with whatever it may be. Whether it be something as simple as just having a simple meal with family and friends, to, you know, just going for a walk, to just enjoying a nice day or enjoying a rainy day. You know, just whatever it is, just seeing beauty and peace and love in everything that's around you. Because when you do that, again, your happiness isn't predicated upon, you know, what is happening when it's only positive. When you can find happiness in everything that you do, well, now you control your life, because, you know, you see beautiful things around you each and every day, and it's awesome. You know, it's changed my life.
I dig it. And so how did Frances transform? What did you see evolve in her?
I saw her really start to communicate. What happened, what Frances would do, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would be like, I would think everything was perfect. You know, we'd have a fight and we'd get over it, and she'd be like, yeah, everything's good. And really what it was is she wasn't communicating as to how she really felt. And then all of a sudden it would be like an atomic bomb would go off. And I would be there going, what just happened? Like, wait a second. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're leaving? Like, holy smokes. Like, where did this come from? And it was because she was allowing things to build up, you know, and not communicating and then she was, it was like a really crazy cycle. She was worried about what my reaction was going to be. So she didn't want to communicate, you know, because my reaction would be negative. And then, so it was just this vicious cycle that we were in. And then, so I saw that really change and develop as to, you know, now where she communicates about everything, you know, which is really, really good. And then we're able to have a good dialogue, and she's not one, I'm very sensitive to how I react to different things that she's communicating to me about, because I want to create a safe space and you know, I'll just have her be comfortable communicating with me. I don't want her to not be able to communicate or feel uncomfortable about communicating. And then, okay, so as she's communicating, we have a conversation about it. And, so that I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is probably the biggest thing that I saw you really progress into. And, so what happened is we started building trust upon trust upon trust. We started building these layers of trust instead of these layers of insecurity and doubt and, not trusting. And, because that's what a relationship typically does is, somebody gets together and they're happy and they're blissful and, their hormones and endorphins and everything's great. Like, they're playing two different games, but it doesn't matter. But then all of a sudden, you have all these underlying issues that are kind of just getting swept over. And then year after year after year after year, it gets piled on. And then all of a sudden it's the couple that you see was married for 25, 30 years and all of a sudden they get a divorce. And it's like, what do you mean? And it's because they weren't addressing issues. They weren't addressing root causes. They never hashed things out. And then by the time they try to start to hash things out, it's 20, 25 years, or it's 5 years, or it's 3, whatever it is. It's learning to communicate and address things as opposed to sweeping them under the rug. And what I realized is it's uncomfortable to address things as they happen, kind of like shoveling the pile as it's small, as opposed to waiting till it becomes a mountain.
And then lighting it up with a torch.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you address them while the pile is small, all right, it doesn't grow into something bigger, as opposed to just making the pile bigger and bigger and bigger and just hoping that it'll just go away. So
there's two resources that are very useful for that. One, there's a couple author named Alan and Barbara Pace, and they wrote a book called Why Men Don't Have a Clue and Women Always Need More Shoes. And it's the title of the book. And in the beginning chapter, like one of the first couple of chapters, it talks about a man and a woman going on a road trip. And they get in the car and, they start driving, and she looks over about 45 minutes and says, "Honey, do you have to go to the bathroom?" And he goes, "No, I'm fine." Keeps driving. And for the next hour and a half, it's dead silent in the car. He's having a wonderful time, enjoying the trip, beautiful scenery, everything's fine. If it wasn't fine, she would say something. He doesn't know she's been punishing him for the last hour and a half by not communicating with him and not saying a thing to him. He thinks it's a blissful experience because she's not saying anything. She's been punishing his butt. And so this concept of miscommunication in that process is really important to understand. And it's a fun book to learn it because it's humorous and silly the way they describe it. But in those moments, sometimes what's happening is there's a different way of saying something that as a guy, we don't hear or understand because it's silent in the car and we're like, things are great, there's no problems, otherwise she would say something. And she's not saying anything, which if you were a woman, it'd be like, oh my God, why is she not sharing the details with me? Shit, I'm in trouble, she doesn't trust me. And so there's a whole nother language going on. And if you're not understanding how to see those signals, it creates that initial piece in the relationship you guys are talking about, which is she doesn't feel safe to share all the secrets and details and the true feelings because it doesn't feel like a safe space to do so. And vice versa, you have no clue those things even exist because as a guy, if I felt something, I would freaking tell you. And if I didn't feel anything, I wouldn't say anything. And the logic doesn't match up because there's two different ways of communicating that. The other thing that's really useful, I did a blog a long time ago when we were in Costa Rica. And if you want to Google it, it's worth checking out. It says, I think it says why women need to vent and how you can be their hero when they do. And there's something special about this. I didn't come up with it. I learned it from a lady named Alison Armstrong. And she talks about as a feminine energy, and men have feminine energy, women have feminine energy. As a feminine energy moves throughout space in the world, it picks up and like if you've ever walked through a field with socks on and gotten all those little like thorny sticker things stuck in your socks, the feminine energy naturally picks up emotional poisons like that. Meaning it can be walking through the hotel library and hear someone having a horrible day and yelling or frustrated or hurt, and all of a sudden that little sticker literally goes and sticks right to her. She goes, ugh, and it kind of gets stuck to her. And then she keeps going. and something happens, and some person in the car honks and goes, ah, and yells at her, and it's like stuck to her. And 2 or 3 don't do anything. She can get over it, doesn't matter. But if you go a week without ever dethorning and getting that stuff out, if you go a month, if you go a year, if you go 5 years or 10 years and you never once help get all those little stickers of emotional poison off of her, the phrase that women use is, I turn into a version of myself that I don't even like. And what's happened is she's become emotionally toxic from all the other little things that have stuck to her, and she hasn't had the ability to get them out, which is that feeling of the volcano of one day, like, I'm out, because it bubbled up so much and she never got to let it out anywhere, that eventually it's not tolerable anymore, and you have to take it somewhere. And so what's wild about that is the ability to then figure out, and in that little blog I talk about how to safely, is probably the wrong word, how to intelligently help get those emotional poisons out. And like you just said, Tony, the more often you do it, the less there is. Because if you haven't done this in 10 years and you go, oh, I'm going to go help my wife or my spouse get the emotional poisons out, you might get some poison that happened 8.5 years ago. And as a guy, you're going to think, why are you bringing that up? That was so long ago. Like, that's not even fair to bring up right now. Well, the only reason it's still stuck in her nervous system is you never helped her get it out 8.5 years ago. And it's been stuck there ever since. And so that little blog gives you, any guys or gals listening, it gives you some tips on how you can go about helping get the stuff out as fast as possible, so that 8.5 years ago from now, if you look back and go, hey, can I help you? There'll be nothing really stuck, because you've emptied the little poisons off every week or every day. And the more often you do it, the less stuff has the ability to stack up. That's really important. And for you to finally feel safe enough to share that stuff, because I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you felt safe enough because he finally stopped turning into the Incredible Hulk every time you shared something and didn't chase you out of the house. Venting. He can now communicate. He can now talk about it. He can now, go back and forth or hold space for you. And all of a sudden now you feel safe enough where you can actually share what's been going on.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. The environment had to feel safe, right? And I didn't realize the magnitude of what I was doing, because what I would do is I would justify the small things. So I would say, well, that's not really a big deal, or I'll let that one go, or whatever. But what it was doing, like you've been talking about, it was creating a giant mess. It was creating a mountain. It was like a Rolodex. Whenever I would have those moments of, just uprising, it would just be a constant, I would just feel things stacking up that I'd honestly forgotten about, but are now there because I hadn't addressed them. And I thought, or I felt that conflict, the reason why, first of all, does anybody like conflict? I don't really know. Most people that aren't truly self-aware into it, that really just love conflict. It's uncomfortable. Right. And I felt, and I think part of it was the sensitivity of losing a loved one, losing my dad, is that, man, I'm thinking something, but I know it could potentially have the power to hurt the other individual if I address it. And I just don't want to go there. So I would compromise myself and my feelings and what was important to me, because for the sake of not hurting my loved one. Right. Because I was just hypersensitive to that. And what I realized is that I wasn't really building a true relationship that way. I was doing a disservice to us both, because I was allowing just this very surface type of relationship to exist, and robbing us of the true gift we could have if we dared to go deeper. And he never had an issue with it. Every time he would have a challenge or he would get upset, he'd talk about it, They're like, okay, we're talking about it. And, but then I felt like in ways there wasn't room for me to talk about things. Right. And, I would want the other space to just be happy space and not have to go into that uncomfortable, conflict. Right. Which I was so terrified of. And, when I finally realized that conflict was a good thing, and it would build trust, and it would allow us to build a marriage, right? And not just exist in this surface level partnership, but actually build a marriage, and understanding it was going to be messy at times, and it was going to be painful for both of us at points. But it was going to be so worth it, and just step by step, I just did it. And once he became self-aware and understanding that he needed to provide that safe space for me, and he needed to just sit down with me and deflate a little bit. Like you said, we didn't necessarily have the breathing exercises installed, but he would deflate, let the air out, and then just sit and look me in the eye and, just say, how can I help you, or today, or what's going on, or talk to me. And, we would sandwich the conversations with love. Before we would start in on the messy stuff, we would remind each other how much we loved one another and how important we were to each other and how much we wanted to be on the same page, and whatever we were to talk about from that point forward, wasn't going to disrupt the great foundation we built, right? So we established the love, and then we would go into the mess, and then we would come out on the other side of the mess with the love again. So we would sandwich it and build from there. And it's, since we've been able to do that, we've built, and we've been continuing to build an actual marriage. And I encourage people to push past those moments in their marriage when it does get tough, so that they can come out on the other side with us and actually experience the depth we experienced. I think the average divorce rate, and don't quote me on this, but I think the average year lifespan for divorce of our generation is 3 years. Because they get together, they get married off of infatuation, and then, life sets in and the dust settles and it gets hard. And then they're like, well, I can go get another one.
Yeah.
They don't fix it. They look to replace it. It's like, all right, well, that one's starting to wear off. Let me go. And they keep chasing that feeling. They're chasing the initial romantic, happy feeling. And they're missing, the true depth and love and fulfillment that an actual marriage can provide, because they're not willing to press beyond those tough times and build something.
It doesn't get easier with a different person. If there's something to know for anyone who's watching, it doesn't get easier with another person. You're going to have to, at some point, you're going to get back to the exact same situation that you were trying to run from or avoid. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with it. And something I always have heard from other people is life will throw you a whisper. And if you pay attention, you can learn the lesson just from a whisper. In life, if you don't pay attention to the whisper, life will throw a freaking brick at you and hit you upside the head with a brick to get you to pay attention. And if you're still dense enough to ignore a brick hitting you upside the head, life will eventually burn your whole damn house down to get you to pay attention. And so, if you learn to listen to the whispers of destiny, learn to listen to those fine little whispers that say, hey, stay strong, stay focused, you can do this. Like, stay here, don't do anything, like listen, or just love, or whatever those little messages are. If you can hear them and practice them and be still with them, they can guide you through the hardest moments. I just saw a quote the other day. It says, if you're in a very dark time, maybe instead of feeling like you were buried, realize you were planted and it's time to sprout.
That's great.
And it's like, whoa, that's a whole different situation, because it's very dark, and both, one feels like you're buried under a pile of stuff and you'll never get out. The other one is you've been planted. Now it's time to literally grow through the situation and come out the other side. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, Frances and Tony transformed in his ability to communicate and to be with the uncomfortableness and to start to trust other people and learn and be open to feedback. And Frances, you found the space where all of a sudden you felt enough safe space in the relationship where you could honestly and authentically express what was real as it was happening, or within a short period of it happening, instead of just setting it aside or burying it or ignoring it or hiding it. And so that transforms you as human beings, and it certainly transforms your entire relationship. Now I'm curious, now that you've become parents, where's the next transformation for you both happening?
Yeah. So, well, we have a beautiful son who's 14 years old. He's been
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
New parents again, because
Yes.
you've had your son. He's 14 years old. I met him on a flight. He's awesome, and things transform.
Yeah.
Because Tony, when you first became a dad, that transforms a man. You look at life differently. And there's, when you chose to take him on as a son and to be there for him, that transforms you as a woman because you look at life differently. And there's something, so Vincent's become an amazing young man through both of you and his mom and all that have helped guide and shape him. And when your new one shows up, there's something different that happens biologically. And it literally sets off a whole different cascade of chemicals in your body, because all of a sudden there's a whole new relationship with this being. And when you guys got married, how old was Vincent?
He was 7. Well, he was 7 when we
met.
When we met. 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he very much
he was
at 7 years old.
Okay, so he was 7 to 9 years old.
Right.
Now, if it's okay for everyone watching, there's a difference in the amount of care, the amount of time, and the amount of need a newborn needs from you versus someone who's 7 to 9 years old.
Right.
And so for the sake of this conversation, there was 2 transformations. One was the transformation for you both of raising Vincent and having your son Tony and choosing for him to be your son, Frances, and choosing to put in the time and effort and energy and love and everything it takes to build that young man into who he's become. And then there's a second layer that's just happened recently, which is your new little one. And as she came into this world, all of a sudden, there's a whole different dedication, amount of time and effort and energy. We were jokingly watching a video of a friend of mine who just had their baby 2 nights ago, and he was sitting in his car staring at his phone, and he goes, I'm gonna be honest, our child is a nighttime terrorist. He sleeps all day, and as soon as the night comes around and the sun goes down, he's like, boom, showtime, and we're toast all night. So, but there's a joke about this, there's a truth about this, and there's a realness. Like when a little one is born, things change.
Yeah.
No parent likes to admit it. My stepbrother was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, all my friends used to tell me, like, we're going to be the cool parents. We're going to be the ones that travel. We're going to be ones that do all this stuff. He's like, we'll see. He's like, very few make it, but we'll see what happens. Because things change. There's another human being who their ability to stay alive requires all of you at various times throughout the day.
Yep. Yeah. Honestly, Jairek, I was terrified going into it. I'm like, holy smokes, man. Like Vincent was such an easy transition for me in a sense that he's just such a good kid. He's just a great young man, and he was very accepting and loving to me, and of course there were difficult times, but he kept teaching me invaluable lessons when it came down to unconditional love. And every time I turn around, he's just exceptional. He'd just say something awesome and be like, oh, okay, yeah, like this we can do, right? This little trio here is working and it's awesome, and he fits right well into our value system, our goals, our life that we've customized together, and it's just easy with him. He's awesome, and I'm thinking like, okay, an infant, right? An infant is going to need me to be there and to do things, and it's going to have its own agenda when it comes to like sleeping and eating, like you said. And I was terrified. I didn't know if I would be qualified for this, kind of job. I thought maybe I'm selfish and just want to, kind of do my own thing, and I can't involve another entity in here that has its own ideas, right? And so I just, throughout the pregnancy and everything, I was just kind of continuing to visualize everything going well, because we just really believe in visualization, and just kind of telling fear to take a back seat, because and not letting it control and dictate my thoughts. But it would creep up, and it would freak me out at points. And I think most moms kind of experience that same thing. you hope that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and butterflies, but you know, there's that other side where, well, what if it's not, you know, and it is a transition. And what I found just coming through the other side is, you know, there definitely has been a transition point, and it's still continuing. But it's all in the way we choose to look at it. You know, I've never experienced love like I experience now. You know, when I look into her eyes and I'm holding her, and she's, you know, her default emotion is joy. So she's always giggling and laughing. I mean, if she's crying, there's a reason why. It's not just because she's sad. She's teaching us how to giggle at nothing and just experience that joy that you can choose daily. And I'm learning from her, you know, in that regard. And so just having that love that I've never experienced it, and then going, okay, how can we fit her needs in her life into this puzzle and this life we've already customized. You know, we travel, we do things. We're not putting the brakes on our purpose. We're continuing to push forward. We're continuing to create and to build. That's what keeps us going as human beings. We like to jump out of bed and do stuff, right? It keeps us happy. We get negative if we stop. So we can't necessarily, you know, I wasn't looking to just be like, all right, I had a kid. Everything else is done. Put it on a shelf. I'm a mom now. No, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner. You know, I'm a contributor. I'm all these things, right? I just signed on as vice president of the mission center in Honduras that we support, the Justice Project. You know, I'm continuing to build my life and create who I am and who we are and define this new identity, right? That's still the same, but with an addition. It hasn't changed. It's the same, and it's added another aspect to it, right? So it's been really fun, and I encourage everyone out there who's probably thinking the same thing. I was just with a girlfriend she's still building her life and her career, and she's wondering about it. You know, can I have a kid? Can I involve someone in this? You know, is it gonna stop me? Is it gonna change me? You know, sometimes there's this negative viewpoint around being a mom that you can't do anything else. You know, and it's bull crap, right? It's ridiculous. You know, you can be anything you want to be, and this child is going to fit into your life, and they're going to become your little best friend. And you know, you're the parent, right? So you can control the direction in which you take them. And you know, we were just talking yesterday about the CEO who, I think she's a CEO. She put a nursery in her office, right? So she's just including this new piece of her into her life that's already been built, and it's freaking awesome, you know. So all those fears and all that and doubt and insecurity that was there, I just had to tell it to take a hike, you know. And we're doing awesome. I mean, it's been the best thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she's adorable, and we just don't operate. We just don't let fear dictate our decisions. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not going to let fear run our life. We're going to absolutely, you know, charge the hill, and it's not always easy. Most of the time it's not. But again, when you know, a lot of people think that, you know, when people say, oh, life is so hard. Yeah, it's because you keep saying life is so hard, you know, as opposed to looking at the joy. You know, see, anytime we have a challenge, we have a situation, the conversation is okay, how do we hack this? How do we make this, you know, more efficient in our life? How do we not keep hitting the same roadblock? You know, we put our own challenges in front of us. We put the walls in front of us. So it's like, okay, how do we remove this wall? How do we get around it? How do we not have to continually keep butting our head up against this wall? You know, and then as you figure those things out, life, I don't want to say becomes easy, but it becomes a lot more joyful in the process. And typically, one of the things that we did a long time ago is we had this with people that we know. They're like, oh, you're having a kid. Oh boy, like you're going to get no sleep. You're going to get no this. You're going to get no that.
Do everything you want to do now because it's all going to be over.
And it's like, come on, man. It's the best thing in the world that you could ever do, is to have kids and raise future leaders of tomorrow. And, that's our mission statement is raising the future leaders of tomorrow. We just had a great attitude, and we just didn't listen to the negative. I mean, same deal with marriage. You get married, people go, oh, be careful, man. You sure you want to do this? You sure you want to get married? You're having a kid. Are you sure? You're not going to be able to travel. You're not going to be able to do. It's like, come on. Maybe that's your truth, but that doesn't have to be ours.
Yeah.
Because if you want to travel with your kids, you could travel with your kids. You just have to figure out a way. If you want to, still quote unquote do certain things when you have a kid, you can do those things. When you get married, marriage is amazing, and we love it, and we're so excited about being married, and we're always hashtag marriage is cool, because unfortunately the world portrays that it's not, and that's just not accurate. Maybe it is for those people that are saying that because they're choosing to speak that into existence. And look, what you speak is really what you become. So you're always talking about how much you can't stand marriage. Well, no kidding. You keep telling yourself that. What do you like? You're not going to believe the opposite if you keep telling yourself one thing. It's like the person that lies to himself who eventually believes it. Well, it's the same deal, same principle. So, we've just really enjoyed. We're enjoying every moment with Emerson, also with our son Vincent, and because life, it really does go quick. I can't believe that we've been together 8 years now, and Vincent was 7 when we met, and Emerson is 4 months already. Going to be 5 months soon, and we're just like, holy smokes! Like, it goes so quick.
Yeah.
So really just enjoying the moment, counting your blessings. It's how you handle and approach problems as they pop up in your life.
Yeah.
It's not the end. So many people have a problem. They go, "This is the end." And every time a problem happens, it's really just an opportunity for you to learn from something. I mean, we always say that your problems are your greatest gifts, if and only if you learn from them. Because if you learn from your problems and your mistakes, you're obviously gonna live a better life in the future. But most people don't learn from their problems. They just keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, and those problems keep popping up. So that's all. So yeah. So.
And I was just gonna say, Jairek, Emerson has been the greatest third or fourth party to this little family that we've built, and teaching us things. Vince, we look at all 4 of us. How can we teach one another? What can we learn from each other? And she's taught us to be more intentional with our time. She's taught us to that it's okay to just sit and be, and giggle at a funny face, or listen to the sound of a bird, and or listen to the waves crashing in the ocean, and just be and be appreciative and find gratitude in those moments, and that type of space. She's taught us more joy. She's taught us more love.
Gosh, yeah. And,
so all the things that we were terrified, or that I was terrified, oh, is it going to slow me down? Is it going to keep me from this or that? To be honest with you, it's not that I've slowed down the amount of contribution and work that I'm putting out into the world. It's that I've found ways to hack it to where I may do things in less time, but stay efficient. Just effective and efficient.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. So
there's beauty in that. One thing you guys said early in the beginning, I think it was Tony, when you were talking about when you really wanted to grow and it was your business in that moment, you identified mentors and people who had already produced the result and figured out what they did to get there. And it's no different than, becoming a parent for the first time and now for the second time, and doing the same thing. If you want to travel, find the people who have kids that travel all over the place and be like, shoot, how do they do it? And go learn from them, become friends, make them a mentor, follow them, study them. Something we were talking about yesterday is every human being around you is an example in some parts of their life and a big warning in other parts of their life. And so find people who are beautiful examples of all the things you aspire to do, traveling with your kids, building businesses with your kids, having fun, taking over, being a great contributor to the world. And as you identify those people and watch them and learn from them and model or emulate what you can, all of a sudden you'll find yourself making all those things happen. And you're spot on. For the people who say, oh, you'll never get to travel when you have kids, those people didn't travel a whole lot when they didn't have kids. Like they
Right.
weren't going anywhere anyways. They liked staying home.
Yeah.
And so, like, the other piece you reiterated a few times is don't let the fear of others become the barriers or the walls in your own circumstance or life. Like, allow yourself to shape reality. Allow yourself to figure out what's possible and where you're going and how you're going to do it. Those are really important. Well, thank you for spending so much time with us. What I'd love to do is ask two things kind of to wrap up on. One, I'd love to know, I know you guys are building the website still, and I don't know if it's ready, but if it's almost ready, maybe we can throw the URL out there for people to go visit. Maybe not right now, but if there's a time frame, or we can circle back and do something when it's ready. And then two, I'd love to know if there's any one core message you'd like to leave with everybody here. What would that be? But before you give those two great things, if you've been watching this and found it useful and you think other people could benefit from it, would you mind clicking the share button and letting them know that they should come check this video out and listen into these two amazing humans? And for now, you two amazing humans, where can they find more of your brand new project you're working on? And two, what message would you like to leave everybody with?
All right. Well, don't forget, there's a third amazing human on here. So we love Jairek.
Oh, I was looking. I'm like, I don't see anybody. I'm like, do you have someone over there? I thought it was a jerk and left people out.
No, but seriously, I mean, Jairek, I think we met you. I think it's been 6 months now that we've known each other, and we've just loved getting to know not only you, but your wife, Amanda, and everything you stand for. I mean, I was sharing with Amanda yesterday, when we get together, it's just natural because we think the same way, we share the same values, we're trying to put similar good out into the world, and everything you stand for, everything you believe in. We've learned so much from you guys just being friends with you. So thank you, and thanks for inviting us on today. This has been fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. But
as far as the Customize Your Life project we're going to be launching, it is just about ready. For those of you watching, you're going to be in for a really great interview that we did with Jairek and Amanda just yesterday. So we're just still editing it. It's going to be ready soon. But the platform is going to be customizeyour.life. That's it. No .com, just customizeyour.life. And what you'll find there is just good, free information from credible voices and people that we feel have done a great job at customizing their life in the areas of health, relationships, finances, contribution. They've done just a really good, well-rounded job at designing and customizing a life that's true to their values and their goals. So you should be able to get some good insight, good inspiration there. And we're going to just continue to work hard to output that for you.
Right now, if the website's not, is the website completely up or is it still getting worked on?
It'll be launching within the next week.
Okay, cool. But for right this second, if you're on here, you can definitely go check out the Instagram channel. I know that's up.
Yeah.
So that's at
Customize YL. Got
it. So someone throw that in the comment section. It's just the @ symbol and then it's Customize YL for your life. So if you're on Instagram, go follow that page because it's going to have all the great updates. And then customize your, one more time, the URL.
Customizeyour.life.
So customizeyour.life. Someone can throw that in the comment section too. Definitely want to check those out as they're building and as they're ready. And so now the final drum roll.
Yeah.
What message would you leave everybody with?
All right. So here's the thing. You can do anything you want to do. You can be anything you want to be. There's one life that you've been granted and you've got one shot to make it great. I truly believe that this is the greatest country in the world. We've been to a lot of countries and we've traveled quite a bit. There's a lot of beautiful things about different cultures, but United States of America is the one country where I've known for it to be true in the Constitution that you have the right to go out and be whoever you want to be. It doesn't grant you, it doesn't grant you success. It doesn't say you're guaranteed six-pack abs or, you're guaranteed to become a millionaire. But what it does guarantee is the right to decide. And you have the resources. If you're able to get out of bed today and you're able to walk out of your door into a free country, then you have the right to start making better decisions that, again, align with your values and align with your goals. And if they don't align with those two things, then don't do it. Don't do it. Create a vision, cast it. We believe in vision boards. Create visuals for yourself, you know, so that you have a framework and a goal to keep working towards. And don't let anything get in your way. Don't let fear get in your way. Don't let ego get in your way. You have all these emotions, and they're all going to exist, and they're all a part of your family, and they're all there for a reason. And sometimes they're healthy and sometimes they're not. But you are in control of your own emotions. Don't let them control and dictate the way you're going to show up in the world every day. Listen to them, grant them value, but don't let them decide how you're going to do things or how you're going to move from that point forward. You are in the command center, all right? And just go out there, kick ass, customize your life. That's what we're all about, and that's what we want to inspire you to do. Tony and I were not voted most likely to succeed by our peers. We just had the audacity to believe that we could. Yep. And we kept at it.
Yeah, I mean, we just the biggest piece of advice that we always give somebody as we're just starting to kind of guide them through some basic aspects of their life is they have to choose who they listen to. And we just chose to listen to people who are speaking life into us, who were willing to have tough conversations with us, but people that had created those results where they were people that not only did we respect, we admired, but we wanted to listen to them because they created that result, and we knew that there wasn't a hidden agenda. We knew that they truly wanted what was best for us. And we chose to, it's amazing how many people just operate like crabs in a bucket where they see somebody else. And the reality is the reason why is typically, and pretty much everybody listening to this has gone through this either multiple times in their life or at least a few times in their life where they're starting to venture out from their immediate circle of friends, all right? And all of a sudden somebody says, oh, well, you can't do that. Or, oh, that's not going to happen for you. Oh, be careful. Like, oh, like we just want to protect you, or we just want you to not fail. And they say things like that. And the reason why people say things like that is because if you go out and succeed, it makes them feel less than. And so it's easier to, quote unquote, pull you back into that circle of mediocrity and not have you go out there and do great things with your life. So it's not that those people don't love you. It's not that they don't care about you. They're just insecure with themselves. So just don't let people like that speak into your life and have you start to create a picture and a mindset that you can't do it. Because like you said, you can, but you have to have the willingness to start. And starting is one of the biggest parts to it. You know, we always heard, oh, it's 21 days to make or break a habit or this or that. And it really is so true. Just what I always talk to people about is I say, look, just start taking the first step. You know, whether how big or small it is, just take one step, take another step, take another step. And each and every day, you're going to start to build momentum. And as you start to build momentum, you're going to build confidence. And as that confidence grows, you know, you're going to realize, well, wow, I can really actually do this. And then as you go along the way, always look back and highlight or look at your small wins. Don't look for the big win, you know, and you'll get those, but always applaud yourself and pat yourself on the back for the little wins and the good decisions that you make each and every day. You know, and that's how you really build a solid foundation. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Jairek, for everything.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Speaking of customizing your life, we're going to do a fun giveaway for everyone watching. I don't know. Do you have a copy of Live It? Can you throw me one of those by chance? Hold on one sec. We have a book flying across the, oh, didn't make it. Almost made it. So here's what's fun. I wrote a book called Live It. If you want a copy, here's 2 requirements you got to do. Number 1, you got to click the share button. And number 2, in the comments section, I'd love you to write a small paragraph about what does customizing your life mean to you. So I think this could be fun that you guys use for your site or reuse for your Instagram channel. But in the little section here, write just a small paragraph about what does your life customized mean or look like to you. If you write that paragraph and click the share button, I'll sign a couple of these and I'll let you know who won, but I'll pick a few of you that did it. that clicked the share button and wrote a small paragraph on what customized your life means to you. And then we'll send you a signed copy of the book, just as a thank you for watching, a thank you for sharing, and a thank you for participating. And for you two wonderful humans, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom and knowledge and fun with everybody. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. Thank you both for sharing so much. I'll talk to you guys probably later today.
Yeah, you guys get that book. It's a good book, so get it. Get it. We love you, Jairek. We love you, Amanda. If you can hear us.
Love you, Amanda.
She can hear you.
Yeah. See you guys.
I will see you guys later.
All right. See you guys.